Welcome everyone to our webinar. Today we'll be talking about the metaverse and its impact in 2023 and how to prepare for the jobs of tomorrow. Whether you're a student or a professional or a business owner, this webinar will provide you the valuable insights and knowledge about the metaverse and its impact on the future of the work. We have an exciting expert joining us today from New Zealand. Welcome, Ryan.
Thank you, Ashi, and Blockchain Council team.
Thank you. Ryan, if you can give a quick introduction of yours.
Yeah, sure. So I've been working in the blockchain and webinar space for about 12 months now, mainly doing educational events and workshops like this. So I'm very excited to present today and hopefully add lots of value and thoughts about future job opportunities as well.
Great. So guys, sit back and relax and get ready to learn more about Metaverse and how you can prepare for the jobs of tomorrow. So Ryan, the platform is completely yours.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. All right.
Perfect.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for coming. Let's just do a little bit of an outline of what we expect to cover today. So first, I'll talk a little bit about myself and my journey getting into the space. Now, there will be slides with additional detail. I want this to be a resource that you can go back and watch again and pause and take notes if needed. So some of the content I'll be moving through fairly quickly because I know that we have a limited amount of time and I want to give everyone the maximum value possible. We'll also just do a quick primer on what the metaverse is and why it's so important, where it's going in the future, the emerging tech and crime opportunities that come with this. Lots of these you'll be familiar with, but some of them will be new to you. And then we'll leave some time for wrap up and questions. So please put your questions in the chat and I'll be able to answer them at the end, and then we'll open the floor to any other ones. All right, so a little bit about me. My career journey actually comes from a science background. I still work as an audiologist. And so that means, for those of you who aren't aware, I work with people with hearing loss. I look at helping them through the journey of hearing loss and looking at hearing aid technology and helping them through that journey as well. From an educational point of view, I also have master's level education in finance, management, and marketing. And I'm still continuing some of that to this day. I'm one of those lifelong learners. And in the last 12 months or so, I've been doing a lot more consulting, guest lecturing, and workshops in the blockchain space. So really, most of what I do is working with corporations, working with companies that are looking to learn more about the blockchain space. Maybe they're advertising agencies and they're looking at doing some campaigns with companies that are looking at blockchain solutions, or maybe they're investment fund managers that are looking to learn about investment opportunities. And so I go and do workshops with the teams, customized workshops, and help them understand where opportunities are and help them take advantage. I also write a newsletter. It's on the Substack platform, for those that are familiar with that. The hyperlink is there. I'd love for you to join. There's free and paid options. And of course, you can tell that I work with finance companies sometimes. This is the disclaimer. Lots of information in this webinar. None of it, of course, is financial or legal advice. All right, so let's jump into it. So first, let's look at actually how we would define the metaverse. Really, what the metaverse is set up on is the history of the internet. So to understand the metaverse and where it's going, I have to understand the last kind of 30 years of the internet and how it's developed over time. If we think back to the very, very early days, we call it Web 1.0, it was essentially static text, pages, kind of like an online blog or like an online magazine, something like that. So it's basically text, right? Read only. And usually companies would do that, or maybe a single person would be publishing some content. as the internet evolved in around 2005, around that point, into the Web 2 era, it became a lot more about read and write and communities. So it's the generation of Facebook and Bebo and MySpace, for some of the people that remember that. And it was about communities, but there's an essential distinction, is that centralized organizations would own that data, and they would use that data, your data, the user, they would use that to sell for advertising and marketing and so on. So where the user data is monetized, the platforms are free. Facebook, Bebo, and MySpace are free. And generally speaking on the internet, if it's free, then you are the product. And that's exactly what Web 2.0 is. Now, of course, it was great for building communities, and it still has its place. But what we're looking at is the slow progression into the Web 3 era. So this is more about read, write, own. So user data decentralized, owned by the user, and the earnings doesn't come from pay-per-click or web view or page views. It comes from engagement and being part of communities and owning part of the networks, owning part of the communities. So in summary, I'd encourage you to think about Web3 as the a conceptual kind of third iteration of the internet, focused on ownership, decentralization, and really runs on blockchain rails. So it's facilitated by the blockchain. Smart contracts. Smart contracts enable trustless function. So we don't have to trust people. We don't have to be verified and trust a third party. It's trustless, it's code, and permissionless access. So anyone from around the world with an internet connection can access a decentralized app, and they can engage with that smart contract, regardless of geographical area, your religion, your ethnic group, what someone has deemed you to be in a certain category. Web3 is about not having that be a barrier to user engagement. Now, there is, of course, the so-called open metaverse, and that would be really using these values of Web3 and built upon blockchains. Ethereum, of course, is a very common example of that, but there are many, many others. And lots of these concepts do overlap with Web3. But of course, it's still really important to understand that the metaverse will end up being mixed with open and closed, just like the internet now is a combination of different elements. The metaverse will be similar. And that's actually really important because Web 2 players and centralized platforms, they already have the capital to help grow the user base. They have the resources to help bring other brands and existing incumbents on board. And so the metaverse as we want it to be, probably, well, it wouldn't happen without the assistance of the Web 2 platforms. So think of the metaverse as having a flavor for everyone. If you really want to explore and dive deep into more open metaverse options, that will be part of it, but there'll also be more centralized, what we call kind of closed metaverses, and that's what Facebook or Meta is building. That would be a closed metaverse, but that will still be really important for onboarding lots of people who are not necessarily as tech savvy and already have Facebook accounts. That would be really important for it to help bring them along for the ride. So a little bit of history. So where does this term metaverse come from? Well, it all starts from a sci-fi novel, Snow Crash. And this is a really, really good book. If you haven't read it already, it's really interesting reading. And really, it's a combination of two words. One is meta, the Greek word for beyond, and then, of course, universe. So it literally means a world that goes beyond the universe. Now, often when people think about the metaverse, they'll think about the movie Ready Player One, which comes from a book, 2011. This is definitely an immersive 3D world. And so I'm sure there definitely will be metaverse experiences like this, but this doesn't encapsulate the entire concept of the metaverse. This is maybe just one flavor of like game type elements that will be there. So if someone really pins me down for a hard concrete definition, this is what I would give them. But it's really important to know that the reason why the metaverse is so hard to define is because it's still evolving at a really quick pace. And it's almost as though if you jumped in your time machine and went back to 1991 and asked someone to define what the internet will be, they couldn't really have any possibility of imagining everything that's been developed right up to this point. So we have an idea about the potential. We know that it won't just be one metaverse. It will be like one metaverse experience, metaverse with a lowercase m. Think of that like a metaverse experience, like Meta, for example, what Meta is building. Think of that like what we have now with Facebook, Instagram, like their whole little ecosystem. That is not the internet. The internet isn't just that. The internet is much bigger, but that's a big part of it. And so when we think about the metaverse with a capital M, we're thinking about the entire thing. And then, of course, there will be metaverses experience that make up that. And what is confusing for a lot of people at this point is they often call themselves the metaverse or a metaverse, but really what it means is a metaverse experience that's part of a bigger picture. So last year was a very exciting year for the metaverse because it made it onto the famous Gartner hype cycle. So this is a really interesting model that's been around for coming up to 30 years now. 1995 it came out, and it takes a little bit to think about what this curve is. I'll walk you through it. It's essentially, you've got on the bottom axis, the horizontal axis, you've got time, and on the vertical axis we have expectations. So not performance, not market penetration, expectations. And so Gartner, what they do is every 6 months or so, they release these really interesting hype cycles, and they attempt to see where various emerging technology is on the cycle. And it's quite intuitive when you think about it. You have something that's new and talked about and hyped up, and it's in the media, and it's all like, wow, look what could happen. And then, of course, the cold, hard reality of the fact that it's not really out of the box at the moment comes to a from the peak of inflated expectations down to a bit of disillusionment. And kind of maybe something else shiny comes on that people look at, and kind of people forget about what's going on. But meanwhile, people and teams are building and making it better. And then there's second generation, third generation, and more kind of network effects. And then it starts to actually meet high expectations. So it starts to actually deliver on the expectations. So what's really interesting to see is that Web3 and Metaverse are still going up the expectation wave. So what this is saying is that people who are very smart are thinking and expecting there to be a slight disillusionment in this type of technology as the world realizes that you can't just at the moment jump into the metaverse and experience it in its full capacity. It's going to take time to build, but that's what we're here to talk about today, where those opportunities are to work and to build careers in this so that we can help ride the wave up when the mass adoption happens. And you know, this could be 5 years, this could be 10 years. It depends on what types of emerging technology, but it's worth being along for the ride. So let's look back at a few previous examples of this cycle, this hype cycle. Cloud computing, it peaked in 2009. And of course, that started to become major part of any IT systems in the last 5 years. So if a person really specialized and dedicated themselves into learning cloud computing, they would be enjoy some very good employment opportunities at the moment. Same types of things with NFC, with 3D printing, and with 4G. There is a delay from the peak to mass adoption, but that is where you want to be building and learning and preparing. Now, when we're talking about dollars, what kind of target addressable market are we talking about? So this is the entire almost opportunity in this space. So I'm going to look at two big reports, one by Citigroup. And like I said earlier, I'll let you dive into these in detail in your own time. And the other is Goldman Sachs. And essentially, they are both placing around about $8 to $12 trillion of market opportunity coming up to 2030, which is not actually that far away. It's only about 7 years away. So it will happen very fast. So this is the time, the next 5 to 7 years, where we, from a careers point of view, we want to be laser focused and start to look where these opportunities are. Okay, so to really understand the journey of us getting there, let's have a look at what we expect the future of this metaverse to be. So let's jump in a time machine 10, 15 years from now. Let's start to explore a thought experiment. And these are predictions made by very intelligent people who specialize in this, of how this will likely all play out. Now, one person I strongly encourage you to follow closely. His book is absolutely fantastic. It's probably one of the best overall summary books in the space to get started. Every time I look through it, I pick up something new. And of course, you can follow him on Twitter as well. And he wrote an article for the cover of Time magazine last year. So he knows his stuff. So 7 things that the metaverse will be. First one is persistent. So some online type of worlds have this already, where it's always on. People come and go. You can't pause it. It doesn't end, doesn't reset. It's a continuous experience, just like real world in that way. Unfortunately, we can't pause time. It's synchronous and live. So even though, you know, there'll be scheduled events and so on, it's a continuous living experience and it's live for everyone. So everyone's on the same kind of stream in terms of time. Now, this is really a Web3 open metaverse concept, accessible to all. So we don't want to have a cap on concurrent users. This is where technology at the moment is a challenge. We want to give each person an individual sense that they're there and being part of it. We don't want any barriers because of any attributes that a person may have, and everyone can participate together with the same individual agency. It will be a fully functioning economy. So this is where this total addressable market comes into place. This isn't just a single website or a single experience. This is a digital economy that is more open and more globalized than anything we've ever seen on the planet. So individuals, businesses, companies, groups, they'll be able to create, own, invest, sell a huge variety of different things, from art to digital collectibles to experiences to knowledge to all kinds of things that we probably can't even think of yet. And all of these things will produce value in some way that's recognized by others. And it will be an experience. So it won't be something that is boring. It'll be something that will actually be engaging, and a combination of this open and closed platform that I talked about earlier. Interoperable. So this is where it's definitely on the longer end of the time horizon. This is a real challenge at the moment. So at the moment, even when it comes to our Web 2 worlds, like the Facebook, Instagram ecosystem, versus the Twitter ecosystem, nothing is interoperable, nothing is transferable across these experiences. And even at the moment, with these fledgling metaverse experiences that we can be part of at the moment, and we're going to see some of these examples, items are mostly within that ecosystem. Some are now, of course, exportable as NFTs, and it can be sold in the secondary marketplace. So there's a step towards interoperability. But then we start to think about our avatars, our clothing and collectibles that we might want to wear on our avatars to present a certain image to the world, being able to use those across different experiences. That is what the goal is. So it's, instead of having different loyalty cards with different shops, it's just one decentralized loyalty program in that example that you could use everywhere. It's private and it adds value. And of course, collaborative. People working together to work, play, and create. So these content and the experiences that are created, it will be individuals from all corners of the planet, anywhere with an internet connection, even on their mobile device, all the way through to big corporations, organized groups. They'll all be able to contribute and find ways to add and extract value. Okay, so now that we know we have a future vision of what this metaverse can look like, we're going to start thinking about 7 with a bonus, 8 in all, areas or layers to this overall experience. And what we're doing is we're dissecting these layers to look for job opportunities. And opportunities, you know, it's a similar conversation when I'm talking with fund managers about investment opportunities. It's looking at where the need is going to be and looking at getting ahead of that. So it's like and I'm not into sports at all, but a sports analogy of running to where the ball is going, not to where the ball is now. We need to think about where the future is going and upskill in that early, so that when the demand is at its highest, you can already say, look, I've got 5 years experience in this. That's where you want to be. So we'll hit each of these layers one at a time. The hardware layer. So this is what you may have already seen glimpses and clues of in the media. And if anyone's been following the CES conference that's just passed, some amazing technology in this space. These are the physical technologies and devices that we use to interact with the metaverse. Really thinking about immersive experiences, augmented reality, virtual reality, which comes under this umbrella of extended reality, which we'll talk about soon. Any kind of consumer-facing hardware that allows a person to be immersed, and that includes mobile phones and other technologies like that. For example, there's a mobile phone just come out and expanding that is purely blockchain based on the Solana ecosystem. A good example of consumer-facing hardware. Enterprise hardware. So like lots of things in the world, you've got the consumer-facing side, which everyone sees in the media and talks about. And then you've got the enterprise side that's behind the scenes. That is often much bigger with huge opportunities, but it's just more of a corporate behind the curtain type of situation. These are the kind of industrial cameras, the kind of projection tracking systems, scanning sensors. These are all elements of even what some people are calling now the industrial metaverse, a huge talking point at the Davos World Economic Foundation conference coming up. Is it this week or next week? I can't remember, but they have a whole article on their website about the industrial metaverse being one of the first to expand, and examples of companies using digital twin technology. So basically making a 3D immersed virtual rendering of their physical factory and using the digital twin of that to innovate and develop and things like that. at a fraction of the cost without using physical materials. Fascinating stuff. Status, developed, prototypes, early generation, first, second generation technology is out, but really looking to refine and scale. So lots of these technologies like the headsets and the gloves can be very expensive, but of course prices come down as scale goes up. So we can expect that to happen as mass adoption occurs. In terms of jobs, we're thinking about things like specialist engineers, software developers, people that are experienced in user design and user experience, and of course all the sales and marketing that comes along with marketing and selling this to the consumer and retail and to corporations. So if you are in one of these spaces or looking to get into these spaces, just constantly think about how you can develop a niche skill set, looking at applying your skills to these new emerging areas, because that is what will give you the advantage going forward. The next layer is the computing layer. So this is a little bit of a problem at the moment. So computing power. The types of demands that a metaverse experiences puts on a computer and a server is intense. There's the physics calculations, the rendering, and it's not just one user in an environment like, let's say, for example, a game. It's hundreds or thousands of people all in that environment together. And that is where, at the moment, the technology falls short. So when we talk about concrete examples, later we'll talk about sandbox. You'll notice lots of these early metaverse experiences are quite pixelated. It's not just to be cute or retro or Minecraft focused. It's because it's basically a necessity to be able to make it work with the current computing power. So, of course, what we really want is a really 3D avatar type of visual experience. That is not going to come until we have better computing power. So we need a lot more computing power. And, if you're IT engineer, looking at research and development, quantum computing, these are all the kinds of areas that are going to be in a lot in demand as we look to scale up this computing layer. Similar to this, networking layer. So looking at concurrent users. When we have multiple persistent real-time connections, we need really high bandwidth and we need really, really strong networks. And at the moment, we are behind on that. Oops, let's just go back up. So the types of areas to specialize in: network engineers, software developers, service provider roles. These are all roles that people might already be in and can already have lots of opportunities right now. But these are also ones that you can look to develop a niche subject matter expert level in these emerging technologies to take maximum advantage. Virtual platforms. So these are these immersive digital platforms that we're talking about, where users jump in, they explore, they create, socialize, work, play, everything from, racing a car, doing a class, listening to music, and of course, engaging in economic activity, selling things, buying things, trading things. One of the huge differentiators from what we would currently call, like Fortnite and those types of multiplayer experiences, is that the ecosystem is open, so other people come in and create the items. So most of the content is actually made by users around the world, and that's where the bulk of economic activity comes from, rather than a centralized entity like what Fortnite would be, or Roblox, for example. Roblox. Status, scaling up. Got some exciting stuff happening this year. Now, some of the jobs here starting to look a little bit different, something a little bit interesting. Voxel builders. So basically, voxels are 3D pixels, 3D pixel. Voxel builders. This is a new job that didn't exist kind of 5 years ago, really. There will need to be guides in these virtual worlds to help people find their way around. So you can specialize in that. Lots of these, of course, you can do on the side. You can do as a side hustle. Play to earn. There are already people that make their living by just playing some of these metaverse type experience games. And of course, all the marketing and promotion. So one of the things I do in my company is we have a store in Sandbox that's been built by an agency, and we can use that to host NFT art galleries. We can host special pop-up stores for brands as part of their marketing and promotion. So this, they had the beta release at different stages last year. I'll let you read over this and dive in your own time. You can jump in right now and experience it. Really, really fun. This is an overview of the map, and you can start to see the big brands that have already purchased huge multi-million-dollar parcels of land, investing in this future economic activity. Making voxels, selling things, creating engaging games. And these are the types of brands that have already, this is just literally just a small snippet of the big brands that have already investing hard concrete dollars, hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars in some of these games and activities and marketing brand activations. It's only going to get bigger. Interchange tools and standards layer. So in order for this interoperability to all work together, there needs to be an agreement on what the standards are. Now, with the internet, this happened quite early. And so those that have a really good understanding of IT will know that most of the rails that the internet is built on, between servers and between clients, it's all open source software that anyone can use. And that was really key in the internet taking off, because it was essentially an open platform that anyone can build upon. And that's what we want for the metaverse. Open and closed together. From the user point of view, it needs to work smoothly. Everything from how products are rendered, moving digital goods between platforms, and all those types of tooling and information management. There needs to be some agreement on how it's done and how it can be universal access. Now, if you're interested in this, and I would say, even if you're not interested in this particular aspect, please follow the WC3. They really are pioneering what is the standard for lots of elements of the metaverse. And so the types of things that they themselves are hiring in all the time and looking for people: research, code development, translations. If it's going to be a standard globally, it's going to have to be in different languages. And of course, ambassadors and key people to promote this. Payments layers. This is one of the layers that is already largely built out in many ways, but of course will develop. And this is how money moves around. In particular, how people on-ramp their assets, so how they convert their local currency to the digital currency. So for Sandbox, the digital currency is called Sand. And of course, if you are selling art and things like that in NFTs in Sandbox, chances are you'll have to convert that back to local currency to pay your mortgage and pay for your kids' school and stuff like that, because the real world isn't going to accept digital currencies everywhere for a long time. So these on and off ramps are where there's opportunities as well, because these are places where people can help improve the experience, Of course, there's transaction fees involved and things like that. So these on and off ramps generate revenue. Here are just some examples. Now, this is how fast the space is moving. There are already so many examples like this around the world. This was just a small handful of examples. It's being developed, but of course, a lot more maturing relationships. And crypto can be a volatile space. Some of the companies that partnered with FTX, for example, are no longer because they've collapsed. So it can be volatile, but those that stick around will benefit the most. Now, this is a particular layer where it's quite interesting. There are opportunities for traditional finance roles to specialize in these types of activities. And of course, encryption, e-commerce, anything that we think about in the investment world is a toll booth. That basically means when people are driving backwards and forwards, they've got to give you a little bit for passing through. And that's what lots of these businesses are. It's only a tiny bit, but it's less than what people have to pay traditional retailers with credit cards at the moment. But of course, it adds up. Content, services, and assets layer. So creating these assets, selling them, storing them securely, and making sure that user data and identity is looked after. These are all types of things that are going to become very, very in demand. Copyright laws are still catching up. There's lots of controversy around copyright and NFTs and things like that. And so it's very much a quick evolving space. A lot of it will happen outside of the mainstream media because it's just not that interesting at the moment for lots of people. So you're going to have to really pull and find people that are in the space innovating and keep up to date yourself. And of course, this has to do with regulation, which is different country to country. And so there will always be opportunities with copyright law and traditional finance roles to help bridge these two worlds, this digital world to the current real world. There always needs to be bridges there. And so there's demand for that knowledge. And of course, the behavioral layer. So like anything, consumer behavior is valuable. So understanding how and why people are spending their time, attention, money, understanding these trends will be very, very important. And so this comes as, jobs along the lines of data mining, BI, analytics, consumer behavior, marketing, psychology. These are all areas that people can start to become subject matter experts within the Web3 crypto and metaverse world to prepare themselves for the next chapter. Okay, so we have some particular examples of emerging tech that I would like everyone to think strongly about. And for each of these, I want you to think about how can you learn about these and how can you upskill? Blockchain Council can definitely help with this. How can you be an early adopter? How can you drive innovation in your current workplace? Do you want to be a generalist, my type of role, where you know a fair bit about a lot of things from an educational point of view? Or do you want to be very niche and be the expert and there's someone who's sought after for that skill set? Each has their pros and cons. And of course, think about what companies and groups will be innovating. Follow them, follow their channels, follow their job postings, engage with them, talk to them, let people know you're interested. A lot of this is happening behind the scenes for many reasons. Lots of companies don't have the marketing to be promoting themselves out there before they have a viable product. So they're building in quiet. So it's up to us to be proactive and seek out these opportunities and pathways. Now, extended reality, I talked about this briefly in the past. Anything around this, you need to pay attention because this is really the gateway to the immersive metaverse experiences that we're going to become used to. You don't have to be a developer either. This is just an example of one of the services, one of the many services Amazon does, but they also have this amazing platform where you can basically build all kinds of extended reality technology and experiences without actually doing any of the coding yourself. So it runs on a cloud. You don't have to invest in the hardware, and there's drag and drop customizable types of interfaces. These are the types of things that not a lot of people are paying attention to. So if you are, you'll be ahead of the curve. Virtual meeting and learning. As we all know, COVID was a catalyst for us to be more virtual in many aspects of our work and social lives. The power is it's always on. It's the metaverse will be on 24/7, so time zones don't become a challenge, and that it can cater for different types of meetings, all the way from corporate to education. And what's really important is the immersiveness and the gamified elements are going to make it so much more engaging. And at the moment, Zoom, I mean, we're using it now, but it's not as engaging, of course, as being able to dive in and interact in 3D. That's how our brains are wired to work. That will always be more effective at engagement of people, of learners of all ages. Look out this year, Microsoft Mesh, read about it, learn about it. Microsoft is really pushing the envelope for this type of 3D, VR, extended reality world. So definitely follow that closely. And for those of you who grew up with the Magic School Bus computer games and experiences, it's learning, imagine it actually being like that. Imagine kind of traveling through interactive human body to learn about how the body works. You know, reading from a textbook is just so last century. AI, of course, taking the internet by storm, ChatGPT. I'm sure everyone's heard about this. Some really exciting stuff happening at a lightning pace. And from a metaverse point of view, AI can help take care of lots of the stuff behind the scenes to make the experience seamless for even new users. So think of having a digital companion, an avatar, that guides you around and helps you out, but they're fully run by AI. These are the types of things that we're thinking about. And decentralized finance. So, of course, for this all to run, we need a trustless, permissionless finance system. A lot of people are very disillusioned with traditional finance institutions. Inflation, it's my medical side talking, inflation at global highs, almost every country in the world. You know, governments printing money for all kinds of things. People don't trust centralized financial systems much, and sometimes for good reason. And so decentralized finance offers an alternative to that, that is basically the perfect rails for an open metaverse. You know, already now, DeFi solutions are there for anyone in the world, from someone on their mobile phone in rural Africa, India, Southeast Asia, can spend, earn, borrow, lend, and of course, tip. So for these type of immersive experiences, tipping, just micro tipping and things like that, these are all economic activity that can run on the rails of decentralized finance. And of course, who we are in these spaces, our digital identity. So I would encourage everyone to learn about decentralized identifiers, DIDs. We will all know more about this in the next few years. It will be the platform that does away with lots of the traditional identity documents that we use now, you know, scanning and PDFs of documents. It's going to be a thing of the past. And what's really important is that it has particular characteristics. You know, it's decentralized, persistent, cryptographically verifiable, and resolvable. These are all things that I'll let you dive into on your own. but it means that you can verify that you are someone to a third party without revealing parts about yourself that you don't want. So you can verify that you are a certain thing without actually having to show them proof of that particular thing. It's called zero knowledge proofs. It's just one of the many exciting things in the space. And this is just a small number of use cases. You can go through the recording and pause it and read through it. Some of the many use cases coming up. And of course, as we spend more of our time online, how do we present in these spaces? In the real world, we invest in fashion and cars and all kinds of things to send the world messages about who we are and who we want to be. And so the same thing will happen in digital space. Digital avatars that you will invest time and money in personalizing will be able to be used on different platforms. You can check out Ready Player Me right now and make your own. Fascinating stuff. And personalized, and you will invest money, real money and real value in having digital fashion and digital collectibles that make you unique, because that's in our heart what we want to be. We want to send the message to the world that we are unique, we are special, and this is why you should get to know me. All right, so just before we go through some questions, just in case we run out of time with question time, please connect with me on LinkedIn, Twitter, and please subscribe to my Substack. That way we can continue to have conversations. I'm happy to answer future questions on LinkedIn, to send me a message. But what we'll do right now is I'll have a look through some of the questions. So question 1. I'm interested to work as a blockchain developer. I know Solidity and JavaScript. I don't know what to learn ahead. Please help. So Solidity is the language that Ethereum is built on. Ethereum is and will be for a long time a huge backbone of the open metaverse. So this is a very good language to learn and be adept in. Software development isn't my subject expert at all. So I would encourage you just to do some research and follow some people on Twitter and LinkedIn that are blockchain developers. Just search blockchain developer, start to follow their content, start to read what they are looking at. And that's what I'd recommend as your next step. Question 2, how can Metaverse be integrated into tourism? So what is tourism? At the moment, tourism is jumping in a car, boat, or plane, traveling to a place that's a long way away from home and enjoying new experiences that you haven't had before, meeting new people. I would argue that the metaverse is tourism. It ticks all those boxes without having to spend the time, money, carbon to travel to those places. Now, of course, we'll always want to travel the world. We're physical creatures, but I think the metaverse will open up lots of options for people who don't have the means to buy $1,000 tickets to the Maldives, and in that way interconnect us as a society better. Question 3, what skills and knowledge should we focus on developing in order to stay ahead of the curve in an industry that is rapidly evolving with the rise of virtual reality and shared digital spaces? So I'm hoping lots of that question was asked at 8:15. So I'm hoping there's lots and lots of ideas in my presentation to help with that. To add to that, I would say follow thought leaders in the space that you are interested in. Twitter is a fantastic platform for that, because no other platform apart from LinkedIn sometimes can you have one-to-one communication with someone who is a cutting-edge expert in their field. So definitely don't be in a cocoon, don't read from a textbook, read from real-time updates in fast-evolving industries. Question 4, what are the 2 significant tips to get started with the metaverse marketing? fascinating. So I would say 2 tips would be, first of all, maintain a general knowledge of the space. So like myself, I need to know a little bit, small to medium amount, about almost everything in the digital ecosystem. So you should know a little bit about NFTs, a little bit about this, a little bit about that, because when it comes to marketing, we need to have knowledge of the entire ecosystem, at least a little bit. And then I would start to think about contacting and following big established companies that are already doing exciting things in the space. So if we think about the Nikes of the world, the Adidases, the Walmarts, the McDonald's of the world, they have huge budgets and they are already looking at spending and investing lots of time and money into the metaverse. So follow them, look for opportunities with them, because to get experience and to really be able to do exciting campaigns, you need big budgets and you need to be with companies that are open to trying and innovating something new. Some of this stuff is risky. Smaller companies won't have the capital to be able to risk too much in a sandbox brand activation, but some of the bigger companies that are forward-thinking leadership, some of them will. So seek those out. Question 5, what are the benefits of metaverse in healthcare? Well, the big part of it, I would say, is access. So at the moment, even within New Zealand, which is, often ranked very highly in terms of, places to live around the world, I frequently talk to people who have to travel 3 or 4 hours to get to their audiology appointment. This is not good access. And so being able to engage with your healthcare practitioner from the comfort of your own home, for a health practitioner or a surgeon that specializes in this particular type of tumor removal, to be able to do that surgery from India, where they're based, and able to operate on someone in a completely different country through virtual reality and robotics, that to me is what the metaverse will bring. Improved access, improved treatments, and the ability to teleport knowledge and communication around the world. Question 6, what industries will be most affected by the growth of the metaverse? Ooh, man, now that is a topic that I would love another hour to talk about. We've talked about quite a few of them today. Lots of them that I would see would be the most affected would be, oh man, that's a tough question. I'm hoping some of the ones we've covered today will give you a starting point. But I mean, the one that comes to mind is the technology kind of industry. Of course, that's always moving quickly. Retail would be another big one. The kinds of brands and companies I work with, they are driven by consumer changes in behavior. And this pandemic has just changed consumer behavior in so many ways. The world is a different place. We buy things differently, we spend differently, we think about the world differently. And so, but we all need to buy things, everything from essentials all the way through to things that make us happy. And so the retail, marketing, kind of product shopping kind of industry, that's one that's going to be disrupted a lot. Another one, of course, is I would put under the umbrella of art. So everything from actual physical art all the way through to music and things like that. Those are the types of, and finance, those are the types of industries that blockchain technology really does disrupt and is a complete game changer. So some of the new platforms that offer decentralized music, and so the artists are getting a big chunk of the revenue from their work instead of a record company taking a huge chunk. those are the kinds of industries that will move the quickest. So that's also answered. Oh, yes, no. And then question 7, which is the last question. Look at that, perfect timing. I love it. How will the metaverse impact remote work and telecommuting? Well, one of the reasons why, of course, we do a lot of that now is because of COVID. A lot of the reason why companies are trying to pull people back some of the time, and people want to go back, is because the platforms that we're using now don't really fulfill the use case. They don't make us feel connected to our colleagues. Turns out we actually quite like that. They don't allow us to be as productive as we could be in person. But if you just implement some of these immersive 3D interactive technology solutions, you tick off both those boxes. So you remove some of the barriers, some of the obstacles that make telecommuting not ideal at the moment. And in fact, you could argue that they'll actually make people more productive than what they are now, as well, of course, giving us better work-life balance, less travel, less pollution, things like that. All right. So Ashia, I'm pretty good for time. I might have a few more minutes if you want to add anything else or ask any more questions.
No, Ryan, we are done with the questions, and Ryan loved it. The valuable insights you shared was wonderful. And there you have it, folks. The metaverse is rapidly approaching, and it's important that we start preparing for the jobs of tomorrow. Remember to stay informed, stay adaptable, and stay ready for the changes that metaverse will bring. And thank you so much for joining, Ryan. Thank you for taking out the time. And thank you, the wonderful audience, for joining us. Hope you find this valuable information very wonderful. And until next time, stay ahead of the game, and we'll see you in the metaverse.
Bye, everyone.
Perfect. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you so much.